It's a minute past 9 o'clock. Right there on 99.5. The former vice president will soon be here. Because what I see resembles her security detail. Okay, we hope to have a frank conversation with Dr. Taylor. Let's talk about the National Patriotic Party. Let's talk about life after service to the nation. Is she coming back anytime soon? Will she want to play an active role in the politics of the country? What role will she play 2029? Is she just going to rest now? Is she coming back? Is she leading the NPP effort? How is life after all these services? She was First Lady of Liberia, Senator of Bon County, I can say twice. She became Vice President. Still around. Okay, so we will bring down the music so we have sufficient time to talk to Chief Nesua Koko, Dr. Jua Howard Taylor. She used to be Senator of Bon County. She was First Lady of the country and the immediate past Vice President of Liberia, political leader of the NPP. I will call George Molubaye and he will say, Clarence, Senate has been restored. We are talking, we've been having a lot of meetings. Erin Snow will go back home and James Barney and all these people. What are they trying to do? Unite to do what? Well, how is life after everything? Madam Taylor is here. Madam Vice President, I'd like to say good morning. It's good to have you after so many years. We have not had this kind of interaction. It's good to have you. And thanks for accepting my invite.
No, thank you, Clarence, for having me this morning. When you're not in the political space, you don't have to talk as much. Yeah. But I want to thank you for this opportunity this morning. And I want to say good morning to Monrovia, good morning to Liberia.
Is that what you try to do? Be quiet, watch, listen, talk less?
That's what I've tried to do. When the new government took over, I think I made a statement that every new government needed a honeymoon period. And for me, it was important to give them that honeymoon period. We are now in our middle part of the third year. But, I wanted to see, what was happening, to take into consideration the work that could have or would have been done. And I think sometimes it's important just to watch and see.
Mm-hmm. Madam Vice President, you look strong. I mean, I know there were tough days. Your recent time was very tough. God being God, we are moving on. How is life now?
And I want to say thank you to the whole country for mourning with me when I lost my only child. I think that's been my greatest challenge, losing someone that you never expected. It's an error when parents bury their children, because it should be the other way around. If somebody has said to me, you have buried your son at 42, I would have probably said to them they were crazy. Over the past 5 years before he died, he had gotten his master's, had a very good assignment. As young people, he had calmed down, trying to plot his new stage of his new life, and I was very happy with the space he was in, and then for God to just say, hey, this is the time you have left, it's upcome. It was very, 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 very heartbreaking for me. It still is. But I have 5 grandchildren I have to look at, so I have to now shift my focus from the pain in my heart to ensuring that I can now process them so that they become what they want to be. But it's been the toughest battle that I've had to fight.
I know. I've been that route. I know. Yeah. Now, when was the last time did you go to Sanoye? In Sanoye, you are Mayo, you are the Giddings. When was the last time?
It's home, though. I mean, I haven't been in the last 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've been to Bon County very rarely. Like you say, a lot has happened. You have to reset. You have to put yourself back into the right place. Mm-hmm. But, even, going to Banga has been few and far in between. Yeah. But that is home. Yeah. Clarence, from the time I was First Lady to the time I ended up, as Vice President, Bong County was like my heartbeat. It still is. I just needed some time to readjust myself, and then before I could start to begin to do that, then this whole thing just happened, so it's pushed me back a little, but I'm beginning to put my foot back on the ground and do some of the things that I need to do.
That's okay. Let's go straight to the NPP. You know, you've been rock and roll. You've been at conflict with yourself. You, the party. At some time you're in court, you are at the neck, and George Moluba is stalking James Barney, Andrew Peters, and the former vice president don't want to let this thing go to. But in recent time, you know, you're trying to get some of your partisans back home, and the chairman was here the other day, he said he's giving me and the public the impression that all is well now. Because you're talking, you resolve a lot of issues. Is that the case? Well, how is the NPP?
That is the case. You know, even if you're married, husband and wives usually have conflicts. Then you're talking about a former ruling party. You know, NPP is not a small organization. There are many different thought processes. There are many different voices. And I think the last 2 years has given us time for sober reflection. And as we prepare for the new opportunities that could be available, we've decided to put the past behind us. You know, we haven't had a convention in a long time. We're purposed now to have our first National Executive Committee meeting post-conflict on July 4th, which is this weekend. We'll be meeting to put the party plans and programs together. And I'm sure after that meeting, Honorable Moluba, who is the official spokesman of the party, will come back on the radio to talk about the plans we have, what we're going to do. We're hoping to go to our convention in December. The Constitution calls for second Saturday in December. So we're putting together our plans to do just that. The NPP is a major stakeholder in politics in Liberia. And I think if we remain fragmented as we have been, then there's no benefit for anybody.
You want to come back to power?
Well, the point is, power is more than just the office of the president. There are legislative positions that will be available, House of Reps. There will be 15 senatorial positions that will be up. And I think we have very few lawmakers currently. A party is considered strong when you have people in the House of Representatives and in the Liberian Senate. And so we're looking forward to that too, putting our plans in place to see who can run in what area. So we're looking at the whole political spectrum. It's not just one position. So as the discussions continue, we'll see where we fit, see who's eligible at the different levels, and come up with a decision. But I think in December, at that convention, a lot of decisions will be made by the party as to how we proceed.
Don't you think you have a huge task to resuscitate your activities across the country, mobilize your base, and, you know, get some of your people coming back on board? It's going to take some time.
That is what is required. And I'm happy that we're starting in 2026. Because we do have, you know, 2027, 2028. They're 2 years before the elections. And I think most of the NPP partisans across the country will be happy when they hear that at the leadership level, we've come together, we're meeting, we're planning, and we're looking forward to bringing the party back. What will happen first is the party's convention at the local level. So as we go to visit Bong, for example, or all of the other 15 counties, we'll be talking about zonal leaders, district leaders, county leaders. We want to start at that point and find out who's where. A lot of people have shifted, some people have left, some people are frustrated, they don't even want to get into politics. But as we travel across the 15 counties, before we go to the national convention, we'll resuscitate our base, find out who's still willing to be a member of the NPP, because the truth is some people have left. Depending on the messaging we're carrying, depending on how we put this in place, we now have to resuscitate the entire NPP structure from the lower level, grassroots level, to the top level. And it is a tough call, but we are prepared to do everything we can together to make this happen.
Will the party current constitution give you an opportunity to retain your seat at that convention?
Well, we haven't had a convention since 2016. Okay. And so everybody's position is up for reconventions. So everybody's going into the process.
You want to go back?
I'm considering same. Again, as we go through the whole process, we'll look at it. I think it's an option for me, and I think I will be considering that option.
Okay. Your immediate past vice president of the country, you know, the CDC will go into a coalition around 2015, 2016, 2017. Joel Howard Taylor, Josh Weah elected president of the country. They will be there until 2018. If somebody wanted to hear it from you objectively, what are some of the reasons you think were responsible for the Unity Party beating you? What would they be?
And I think we lost on two fronts. And the first front was the inner wrangling.
Inner wrangling.
Yeah, inner wrangling. There was a lot of inner wrangling between cabinet ministers, the office of the vice president. And at this point is just to look at the holistic aspect of it, not particularly who did what. Because in every situation, an individual has to also look to at maybe what they could have contributed or not contributed to the crisis, but we ended up in that place of crisis. Mm-hmm. The second thing that I believe was our Achilles heel was the fact that we did not take our messaging to the people like we should have.
You think so?
Yes. There was a lot of work going on. But if you remember, the government wasn't keen on, we assumed that people knew. Oh, people know what's going on. And I always just say people don't know until you talk about it. One thing that was so important to me was the resuscitation of the TVET. You know, all of the TVET institutions across the country had been damaged. Mm-hmm. So in our tenure, we ensured that those TVET institutions were renovated, completed, furnished. Important aspect. Another aspect was the building of the new hospitals in the southeastern region. So there was a lot of work being done. And we should have come to the radio and made sure people understood what was happening. People didn't know all of what was going on. And what we're doing now today is to backtrack and say, okay, this is something we started. You know, we started this, we started that. All of the new, there was, I think, 5 or 6 new schools built. Bond County has one. And I know I clamored for it to come to Bond County because I kept saying, this is, one of the biggest counties. The Beaufort High School is old. It can't even, hold the number of children that come from around the country. Because most of our districts have maybe up to 9th grade. Sanaye has a high school that was built by me during my tenure as senator, but most of the districts don't have high schools. So most of the children come into Banga to go to school. So Beaufort now is overcrowded. We needed that. So there were some things that happened. So what you see us doing now is saying, okay, remember we started this, we did this. I think we should have talked about those things a lot more than we did. So I think those were the 2 issues that I can tell off the top of my head.
You thought you did a lot, but you did not articulate it to the population. People did not know about it.
That's what I believe.
What was there any point where you said, we're not going to get reelected? Was it clear? Did it take you by surprise?
Well, if you look at the numbers that we lost by, less than 20,000. So I went across the country 2 times, campaigning on our record. And I didn't believe that we would not have won. I knew it might have been a close call, but I still thought we would have won the election. So all of us were a little bit surprised that we had lost by that small number.
What do you say to Liberians who think, beyond what you said, the Unity Party in opposition at that time succeeded in, the propaganda, in my opinion, in my word, the propaganda against you, and you were sitting there and they were leading the charge, organizing the biggest protest. Just yesterday, Kiatama was here and he was saying, this is the weakest opposition he's ever seen. All of you sitting, things are happening in the country, nobody talking. By 2019, 2020, at about this time, the opposition was on your back.
Yeah, so then we get to 2028 now. If you're saying 2016, 2017, the fact of the matter is the propaganda that they spewed across the country worked. And people believed it. A key issue was drugs. President Weah was bringing drugs into the country, and we don't want any more drugs. There will be no children selling on the streets. There's a lot of propaganda was raised. And for me, what it showed is that Liberians want more. That as we go even into 2029, it cannot just be business as usual. The people want more. They want more in terms of how their lives can improve in an actual way. Yes, we're building roads, we're building buildings. How does it build the life of a woman in the market? I've been listening to some of the women in the market in their interviews. They sit at their tables for 2-3 days, no one is buying. A lot of people have lost their jobs. So I think the propaganda angle that they did to us was very, 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 very serious. And we just thought it was noise. As usual, you know, sometimes the ruling party thinks it's noise. But again, when people are sitting in their homes and it's biting them, they have a tendency to believe that this is what is happening. But I think if you listen to a lot of the major radio stations, including Spoon, a lot of them are now disappointed in the way things are going. But that is their story. They have to talk about it, not me.
What did you say recently? Were you misquoted? I saw a video of you making rounds on social media. Did you say the government is doing exceptionally well and nobody should criticize it, or what did you say?
No, I never said that.
What did you say?
I had gotten invited to a program of religious leaders talking about sustaining and improving families. And that's something that's to my heart, and so I thought it was important to attend. And during that program, we talked a lot about what are the gaps in the families. We talk about the fact that the fathers are absent in most homes. You know, most husbands or most men have 3, 4, 5 homes they have children in, so they rotate. We talk about the fact that there's a gap in the family again because parents are working, both mother and father. We're leaving our children to nurses. We talk about the fact that the media can play a very important role. And it was in that context that I spoke. And I said, when we grew up here, I know on Saturday morning, especially while you were doing your chores at home, my father would put the radio outside on the porch and he would make it very loud because there was teaching going on. It wasn't just radio. They taught hygiene, they taught all kinds of different things. They talk about, the radio would talk about patriotism, what it was like to love your country. So beyond what your parents would teach you on Saturday morning, it was a whole morning of learning. And the radio stayed on till about 2. Hopefully by that time you will be finished with your work and then you will have had time to go and do some other things. But the radio was a teaching mechanism. And today we have social media. And my point was, where is that missing in a gap of sustaining families? I said there's nothing on the radio about providing positive information to children. The media is very negative. Every time there's this happening, that happening, the other thing happening, the other happening. So I was talking in that context. And I said, I wish the media would be a little bit more positive so that our children, a lot of them are on social media on the international level. They're not paying attention to Liberia really because it's like it's boring. Nothing's happening. You're not teaching anything. Can we use the media now to begin to change the message? I even said, you know, when somebody like Takunje sings a song, everybody pick up that song. Somebody like MC Carey, you know, all of the major players, once they sing a song, even 2-year-old babies will pick up the song. I said it would be a good thing if they would start to talk about patriotism and talk about some of the things that we learned that made us, I believe, better citizens today. And so when the press asked me, what do you think can happen? I said, we can change some of the narrative. And then one press person asked me, do you think anything positive is happening? I said, yes, there are positive things happening. I said, for example, I'm very happy about the fact that the Latter-day Saints, that's the name of the Christian group, is now joining government to build a maternity center. We need a maternity center for women. That's a positive thing. You know, of course, they took it out of context and said, I said the government is doing well. But it was in that context that I spoke. Okay. I think the government has a lot of challenges, Clarence.
We'll talk about that. At least we're doing one here. There's a show here Saturday, 3 o'clock, produced by Mrs. Nesua B.N. Livingstone. It's called Nesua and the Kids, where she teaches children about upbringing, family life, responsibilities, and those kinds of things. Okay. And I think it's going. I think it's going very well.
Saturday at what time?
3 o'clock. You want to listen to it? Yeah, Saturday, every Saturday, 3 o'clock. Mrs. Livingstone is here with the kids. And basically just teaching them about upbringing and those kinds of things. Is there any assessment of the Boakai government that we can hear from your perspective?
And Clarence, you know, there are many challenges. And let's look at the challenges. The drug challenge. And I think all of us are disappointed with the way it's being handled. You saw what happened to Boke Raw. You saw what happened to Peachability. And I was saying to someone the other day, they need to release Peachability. You are buying your own marijuana, smoking it, even though it's wrong. I've been part of the Say No to Drugs campaign a couple of years ago. And I always say at the end of my presentation, if you are wise, don't start. Because that is such a demonic thing that once you start it, most children are unable to bring yourself back. and you can drag yourself into where many of our young people are. I don't think any family is void of this drug thing. Across the board, you will find out the devil doesn't take useless things anyway. He takes the best and the brightest. So all of the best and brightest in our families are affected somehow. My own son had a drug problem for many years. I had to take him all the way to Ghana, get him through the rehab program before he came to himself. And so it's a really serious problem when you're having such a huge consignment of cocaine, Leonard. Nobody knows where it came from, how it got here, how it was being shipped. And I think the government needs to do a little bit more in terms of letting the public know where we are and getting this solved. It's just not, and this is at the highest level, so you can imagine what's happening at the lower level. People bringing drugs. Our borders are very porous. People walking across the borders. They said there are some places in our country that the drug people have taken control. They bring their boats, they're drug by boats. Nobody can tell them what to do. So it's a real serious problem. How did we handle it? And I know maybe in our third year or fourth year, looking at the issue of drugs, we started to build rehabilitation centers. I visited one with the president in Kakata, attached to the Kakata hospital, where there were about 30 young men when we had some conversations with them. And there were 2 or 3 other facilities that were opened. Those need to be expanded because the issue of drugs is not just a government problem. It's a family problem. It's a community problem. There are communities where people know where the drugs are coming from, where they are being sold. And everybody's sitting there, not doing anything about it. So everybody has to get involved. But at the level where it is now, this thing has gotten somehow out of control, and we're having real serious issues. So I think the issues of drugs is an Achilles heel for this government. I think a lot of people have been laid off. And I'll be clear to say when we took over, President Weah was clear. He's a people person now. And he told all of us to not lay off anybody. Those people are Liberians. And perhaps some of them voted for us. We would not have won overwhelmingly as we did if, some of the regular people didn't say, give him a chance. So who who voted for you and who didn't? When I became vice president, I had the turning over notes with then former vice president Boycott, and the entire office of the vice president was left intact. The 30 people I brought on board, I had to go and look for money at the finance ministry for them to add to my budget. Because who are we going to lay off? People from Lufa, people from Bong? It didn't make any sense to me. However, when I left, almost all of the people who were there had been laid off. Some of them were civil servants. They've taken their case to the civil service place and nothing is happening. They're just dragging them back and forth. I believe civil servants should be protected. And this is what George Weah's message was. You meet civil servants in those places, leave them where they are. You got a chance to bring in some people at your level, appointed people you're discussing and see who's working where, but make sure those people remain in place. So we didn't lay off people. So this is what is happening now. There are a lot of people also being laid off. So
when you went to Bong and after the elections and said they should give your time because this was your time, they had their time to rule. What did that mean? Didn't that mean that you were laying out people? You wanted to lay off people?
Appointed people. Again, the government has an opportunity to bring in their own appointed people, which is a very small amount of persons when you look at the whole structure of government. The larger structure of government are civil servants. So the percentage, and we need to check and see what is the percentage of those who are appointed as opposed to the balance of the people that maybe a 10% or 90%. And I'm just saying I haven't checked, But when you look at the percentage of people that remain in government, in fact, some of the United Party ministers remain in our government. 4 or 5 ministers came from the United Party, stayed in place, ministries, agencies, everything stayed where they were. At one point, the party started to complain, where are our only jobs? So if you have United Party people in place in these major ministries and agencies that are not being moved, how do we get jobs? That was also an issue with us.
What is your relationship with President Boycott?
I think President Boycott and I had a better relationship when I was vice president than we have now.
Why?
Well, the office of the presidency is not just something you can just enter anyhow. You have to come and be invited. I haven't yet had an opportunity until my son died, when his nephew died, and he came to say that he was sorry. But before then, I hadn't been able to meet him. I've asked for an appointment. I hadn't gotten one. They keep switching it back and forth. But I think the relationship between us when I was vice president and when he was vice president, because working in the Senate, I was a member of the Ways and Means Committee.
You were in office then?
I was a member of the Ways and Means Committee, and you had to always consult the vice president. So we had a very good relationship when he was vice president. And when I became vice president, I know I visited him several times to consult him. But right now, it's like there's a family relationship, but there's no personal relationship, I don't think.
When you have you heard a lot of people say the relationship between he and your former boss, former President Weah, is not good? Have you heard that? Do you believe that?
I can only speak for me. I know how it is with me, so I'm not sure what his relationship is with President Weah. I don't think the way President Weah treated him as president, because I know he visited him several times, him and his wife. President Weah and the First Lady visited with him several times when we were in power. So did I. I don't know if he's been to visit him or if he's asked them to come and visit him. I don't know. And it would be wrong for me to assume something that I'm not clear of. But I don't think there's also a relationship at that level.
Have you heard people say you did not do much to reconcile the country? You, the government, not Taylor, not Senate, not Vice President Taylor.
And that's an issue. I think the crux of the problem we're having, even if you look at the noise in the media, you realize that the country is not reconciled. The country is divided into two blocks. And people are standing in their position. There are a few people shifting back and forth. I think this divide will get clearer as we go towards 2029. But I think the country is not reconciled, and I think any government that is in power, any government that intends to come to power, has to consider that as a real serious agenda. How do we behave and that is a responsibility of government mostly, how do we behave in ways that allows people to forget the past and be a part of what is happening? You know, when someone gets elected in the United States, for example, you become president for all, regardless of who voted Republican or who voted Democrat. You must be the president for everyone. And so I think I'm praying that we'll get a chance to get to that level where it doesn't matter who you are. I would like to say, without fear or favor, that I think President Weah reached out to the opposition when we were in power. There were a lot of people who had said a lot of things who ended up coming to help. It doesn't seem that way now. It seems like the divide is actually real. But I hope they still have some time to kind of fix that, because I think the reconciliation process begins at the top.
I know. One can understand. I mean, the way you talk, some of the things you talk. As a former vice president of the country, you're trying to be careful. You're trying to choose your words. I'm not sure you will be the same Joel in 2028, 2029, thereabout. Probably you would have removed everything and put up your political coat again. I can understand that. If you wanted to talk to President Boakai about some of the things affecting the country most, what would you say?
The first thing I would like to talk about is the issue of the drugs.
The drug.
Yeah. Because I think it's a major, major issue is destroying families. And if the family unit is destroyed in any country, then you don't have anything. We already have had 40 years of crisis when we went into the war. We lost our children, we lost our family units, people scattered all over. People are now trying to come back. And we're coming back to an issue of drugs that is affecting, many, 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 many families. The drug thing has to become a fight for life.
The government says it is investigating.
Clarence,
it's got presence of interest.
It's been how many weeks since this whole thing happened? And it's not one small bottle of cocaine or a small part of marijuana, because they grow marijuana all over Liberia. So you could have them pointing marijuana here or there. The fact is that it's gotten to a very high level. It's a serious, serious, serious cocaine, I believe, from what I heard on the media. I don't think government is doing enough. I think as the president, something needs to be done in a very, very, very serious manner. Look how they did Pish Belete. Getting straight to court, didn't I nothing. Next thing he was a judge.
Because that's what the drug law says.
But why is it now being softened?
We're still checking for the culprits. That's what the government says.
How? CCTV everywhere. I mean, there's a lot more that can be done.
You think so?
That's what I believe.
Okay, let's move on. Recently, you were one of several Liberians invited to the Liberian Senate. You were talking about proposals on the elections law and all these kinds of things. And I witnessed these changes when you talk about increasing. Why do you want registration fees increased, for example? Why?
Clarence, I believe the I believe leadership is not merely about just an ambition. It's a solemn responsibility to follow your laws. And when we all get elected, we swore to uphold the laws of our country. Somehow we get there and we kind of switch that, that has been an issue for this government also, that the rule of law hasn't been respected as it should. And I think those who seek the highest levels at our country, the requirements should be a little bit more stringent than it is. And I feel that the fees are very, very, very low. As a member of the Liberian Senate, I raised this issue. So it's not a new issue for me. Every time an issue came up about looking at those requirements, I said they should increase them. I even went further to talk about the fact that the law says political parties should get 500 persons over 6 counties. If the law requires someone who must win as president at 50+1, then I think those things should also be increased. 1,000 people across the country that have registered voter registration number. Because the same people, if we went to go put voter registration number on the listing, and then it will get serious because you can register in 3 places. I'm sure that Jack will put a fingerprint to everywhere and say, oh, this is it. We have to look at it. How do you say from 6 counties for 500? That's a very low number. If you want to have a political party and political parties want power, they want to be a part of the governance structures. Political parties are not just brought on board to wait at the end of second round and you say, okay, I join you so you can give me one minister position or one. No, it's about coming together holistically to put in place a governance structure to make your country better.
Madam Vice President, leadership should not be about the biggest pocket. It should not be about who got the biggest monies to register.
It should be about those who are serious. And for me, that's my point. If you have the prices so low that everybody, look at one representative, we have 50 people. I think everybody is not called out to be a lawmaker. The responsibilities are very serious. I looked at a picture the other day on the social media. I don't know who posted it. It might have been Mariah Yekula, but I'm not sure. Let me not pour on the firing burner this morning. But as a keke man put on the back of a keke, the problem in our country is the legislature. And you were passing, sorry about taking a picture and floating it on Facebook. Most people feel that the problems are in the legislature.
What do you think?
They are the first branch of government and they have responsibilities to ensure the country runs properly. That's why they're given the responsibility for oversight and for ensuring that the things work. So they too have a responsibility in what we're doing. So I believe if you have the people who are most responsible, getting involved in this process, and it makes it a little bit better. So it shouldn't be, if you say the fees are $500, anybody can go borrow $50 and get a $5. Are they the best? Is the loudest person the best? No. Is the most popular person the best? Maybe not. But you have to look at them holistically. What is it they bring to the table? Have they had leadership positions before? Because when you get to the legislature, there's a lot required. When I joined the legislature in 2006, I already had 2 master's degrees. I had to go and get a law degree. 3 years in the law school. Because I didn't know the laws of my country. And I was going to be really misled if I didn't even understand, what was happening. I'm happy that a lot of the lawmakers are not going to law school. You should know those laws. Because if you are trying to enforce it, or if you are trying to amend it, and you don't even understand what it is, then it's just noise. A lot of people sit in the legislature. When we were there were serious debates on every issue. Nothing was left in a corner. We had those open sessions for weeks. Sometimes we'd take off and go into a county and sit down there for 2 weeks, looking at each law, line by line, to make sure that the laws we're making, they didn't contravene laws that are already in existence.
Even as that, there are international reports that you people passed some of the worst laws for the country.
What period are you talking about? 2006 to 2018 or 2018 to 2016?
Well, 2006, thereafter, they talk about 22 bookers, concession, all these kinds of things. You people were there having all these different seminars and meetings, but yet...
This is what the law says. If a law comes from the executive branch, you can do 2 things. You can accept it or you can deny it. If a law has maybe 80% good things, will you deny that law because there are 20% bad things? We had to take that decision every day. But what did we do? We insisted that the executive branch put in each concession agreement a 5-year clause for review. And we thought that it would give any government a chance to review it. This is the time. It's timely for any government to say, let's review all of the concession agreements. Some of them have loopholes. We now have income to the government for 5% royalty. What is that? People are making billions of dollars of our country and we're getting 5% royalty? Is that what we thought about when we started it? No. But now is the time. Thank God that clause is in every concession agreement. So can someone say, let's stop and see where we are. Let's make some adjustments. Because the countries will improve. Things will get better. Things will get worse in certain instances. So that gives you a chance to go back and say, hey, we forgot this clearance. Can we put this back? And it gives the government that opportunity. But at the time, even today, if a law comes from President Boycott to the legislature, they can either say yes or say no. But we added in, and it has become standard, that every concession agreement has a 5-year clause for review. So I think that gives us an opportunity.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to the OK Morning Rush right here on 99.5. Today we have Netsua Koko, Dr. Juwah Howard Taylor, immediate past Vice President of Liberia. What is this thing with this whole issue of 30% women representation that all of you are so, or some of you are so passionate about? Do you want exclusive seats reserved for Liberian women? And George Moloba will come here and he was struggling. He was saying, personally, I don't want it, but this is what my party wants. So, I mean, we got to ascribe to it, and those kinds of things. What is this thing?
And I want to shift you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's also another thing. There are two things that are important as we look at the laws. Mm-hmm. The diaspora voting.
Diaspora voting. We're going to come there, but let's just combine the both.
The diaspora voting.
Mm-hmm.
President, we are looking at the fact that Liberians seem to have lost their citizenship, by going to America and Europe. And we did a law, and the Supreme Court agreed that no natural-born citizens should lose their citizenship because of the crisis. So by right, everybody has regained their citizenship. So those are our people in the diaspora, right? The law also says if you are 18 and above and you want Liberian citizenship, you just can't say, I was born in America, but I want Liberian citizenship. It's easy to do. Our Constitution does not allow for diaspora voting. It says natural-born Liberian citizens should vote in the process. Mm-hmm. We don't have the structure in place to start talking about diaspora voting. That's a whole long process. It's taking America, and there will be 250 years this year. Let me take time to say happy 250th anniversary. But I think we shouldn't add anything to this thing that will make it a little bit more confusing. Before we can't even get our resource on time. We're coming to start talking about how we get our resource from Ghana and Ivory Coast. People who want to come to Liberia and register to vote are allowed to by the law. So there's no need for this, and I just wanted to clear that up. The second issue for me is the issue of 30% women representation. What does the law say currently? Political parties, because they are the gateway for politics. Anytime you have it's not as bad during the midterm elections as it is during the presidential elections. Because during the presidential election, what I've seen is that everybody will vote according to party lines. At that first round, everybody will vote for the party. Second round, and then people make some adjustments. Mm-hmm. Because the political party is the gateway for politics. We're saying political parties, what the law says now is should endeavor to ensure that there will be a minimum of 30% women on the ballot. And I know people say, Juwah Taylor, just talking, but the fact is I'm a product of that. And I will always tell this story, even though the NPP led to here. In 2005, when I considered running, I went to my party. They said, what's that, man? Who are you? Just instead of being taken from the country, who will elect you as senator? Nobody going to elect you as senator. In fact, most of my friends from Bonkane believe I will never have won. I know Fanny basically came to me one day, oh man, they think you're doing Bonkane, I think we'll win. I said, so if I win, what do I lose? Let me continue my process. But I went to the party and said, put money on the list. They said, no, they're not putting money in there. I won't win. They sent their 100% male listing to the Election Commission. And because there was a law in 2005 that said, all political parties shall ensure that there's a minimum of 30%. That list was sent back. They didn't cancel, then they said, you're fine with me. At that point, they called me and said, okay, you can't put your knee here because you one of the women that say you won't win. We know you're not going to win, but you can't put your knee there. So my winning in 2005 was a result of that small advocacy for females. In 2011, everybody lost the ball. We don't know how come that thing was moved. It was taken up completely. So then we decided to go back and say, no, we got to put it back.
All of you lost sight of it.
Yes, we did lose sight of it. And somehow it was removed. So when we got to the 2011 election, looking to see how the political parties would maneuver to find women, it didn't exist at all. So then the women caucus at the time said, let's put it back. We started the argument back and forth, back and forth. What we were able to get was political parties should endeavor to ensure. In law, endeavor to ensure means you must do everything within your power, but they took it like a may or you can do it, you feel like doing it. So it had no effect. They didn't go to it. Nothing was done to them.
So the way the current one, it doesn't make it binding.
The current one doesn't make it binding. Now they are changing it. The bill that we saw changes it to shall. Political parties shall ensure that a minimum of 30% women, not just on the listings, in the political party. What did we do? In the structure. What did we do as MPP? Was I going to go tell the vice chair for administration, move for them, me find woman? No. But by the time we started discussing it in our constitution, we realized that there were new structures available. For example, governance. For example, gender. There were a lot of new issues that we needed to add to our structure. So then we added, and then we brought women on board. So we didn't tell Clarence, you have to move from your position and let bring on woman. We enlarged our structure. Our structure is one of the largest, but it provides an opportunity where there are women on board. So we have tried to do that because I'm a sitting stand-up bearer for the MPP. I'm female. If I wasn't female, it would be the same like all the other political parties. I think Liberty Party now has tried to bring women on board because they do have a female stand-up bearer or political leader. But I think it's just fair. I heard one of the senators say when we had that hearing, plenty of women don't want to be politicians. If you want to be politician, you don't have to be. But those who want to be should have an opportunity. And that's what we're talking about. And there are many women who would like to be in the political party structure, but it's like the doors are closed. Can we open the doors a little bit?
What do you say to people who think that as long as Juwah Howard Taylor is still in the NPP, probably the stand-up bearer, very influential, in 2029, the NPP will not go anywhere else. They got to go back to George Weah.
And what I would like to say is what we've decided is to first come back together. A broken party has no substance anyway. Anyway, if the party is broken and fragmented, then we all lose. So what we're concentrating on, Clarence, is to come together, go through our processes, legitimize ourselves. Whoever gets elected, get elected. And the NPP convention is always contentious. It's not an easy thing. Can you remember in 2016? They had never done that to anyone. They said, must follow the constitution and go and do primaries, like the American primaries from county to county. We ended up doing all of that. Thankfully, I was still able to win. So it's not an easy thing. I don't see it as being an easy walk in the park. But if we are not together, if we don't legitimize ourselves, where do we go? We don't go anywhere. Then Juwah will take a chunk of the party and carry where she wants to. Maybe Honorable Mulba will take a chunk here where he wants to. But once we are fragmented, then we have lost our substance. And what I want us to do and what we have decided to do as a party is to come together, legitimize ourselves, go back in the grassroots, bring our people together. If NPP will say we're number 4, we have to talk about numbers. We can say we're number 4 if we ain't got 10 people that we can count. Why are National Patriotic Party ID card? We're going to be going across the country, people getting their ID cards, re-registering people by numbers, not by fingerprint, by your registration number. So tomorrow if somebody says, how many people you got? We can say, well, we got 300,000 people across the country. We have substance. But no party, maybe CDC, because they are a grassroots party. Everywhere you go, you see the people. So you can tell that there are many. And maybe we could have some meetings and you'll see plenty of people, some people will come even to just hear what you want to say. But we want to be a serious political party by going back to our grassroots and getting our numbers back in track. That number gives us leverage to now see what we need to do.
You think you can do that back?
Yes. I believe we have the capacity and heart to do it. And we'll be going across the country and talking to our people. Those who have left, come back. This is home. If you go anywhere else, they'll say, what are the NPP people? They just come here to spar. So let's come back home and build our party. And nobody knows what the end result would be. But we must put our best foot forward first.
Have you started talking now to any other opposition political party?
No.
Will you go to any of such discussions with the strength that, look, we cannot sit on the fence anymore?
I think if we put ourselves together and we get our party strengthened and people see our strength across the country, then you have leverage. But if we don't do that, it will just be talk to everybody else. Okay, we got it like that. We don't have it like that. We want to do it another way. Because it's more important than just the maybe 50 people there maybe 50 or 60 people in the National Executive Committee. It goes beyond us. So we have to go across the country now and rally our people and see. Once people see the strength that we have, I think it will give them a better idea of what we bring to the table. Then we have better negotiations.
Will you front for more women in leadership in the NPP this time around?
I will be, just what I'm talking now is what I will do. I believe there are women across the country who could be good representatives, who will be senators, and we'll be looking at that law. Because if it's changed to put in shall ensure, as the standard bearer, if I remain standard bearer in December, even if I'm not, I will become a strong person in the party to make sure that women are added to the list. Because I know when women are in the legislature, the changes that we can talk about, the changes that we are interested in, the things that are important to us are family issues.
If you didn't win stand-up bearer in the NPP in December, will you stay?
I still remain a member of the National Patriotic Party. I joined that party in 1997 when it was established, and I think this is where I will remain. We might collaborate, coordinate with other people, but my heart is with the National Patriotic Party, and I think that's where I will remain.
Your chairman, Josh Moluba, came here the other time, and he said, Clarence, former President Taylor said, in the midst of everything he's going through, unity in the NPP makes him happy. As stand-up bearer of the party, do you speak to Mr. Taylor? Is he concerned about the NPP too?
Of course he is. Of course he is. This is something that he birthed. So whenever you talk to him about it, that's all he says, because he's in a place he shouldn't be getting involved in politics. But he will just tell you, all I want is unity. If there's unity, everything else is possible. So we have to come together. I think that message has been cleared, and we are all falling in that track because it is the right thing to do at the right time.
What's your current relationship with the leadership of Bond County?
There were strained relationships in 2023. Of course, I was campaigning for the CDC. Some members of the caucus were campaigning for the Unity Party. But what I saw when my son died was a coming together of everybody. And for the first time, I felt a part. Even the superintendent went out of her way to host the funeral services that we held in Bond County. All the caucus members joined. They visited with me. They supported the whole process. And over the last year, or maybe since January, 6 months, we all have a good relationship. I think we have managed to go a little bit beyond just party lines and to look at Bond County as a whole. We're talking about whenever I have an issue, me, I will call and talk about it with Senator Weah. So I have a good relationship with the caucus.
Representative Marvin Cole is nationally known to be your political son. Very influential member of the NPP. He used to be. He's not there again. Are you talking to him to return home?
Oh, I talk to him all the time. I mean, whenever there's an issue in the legislature or the issues in Bond County that I have something to say, I will call whoever is responsible. I talk to Honorable Cole. I talk to a lot of the caucus members. As it relates to Marvin Cole is my son. And I always say, let's see how some people can get tired with the wrangling because you're already on a political field that is rancorous if you are a sitting lawmaker. You don't want to also have to come from there into a political party that has all these issues. So we believe as we come together and we put things the way they should be, others will come back. They will consider it. So we'll be reaching out to all of our members. Marvin was elected on a National Patriotic Party ticket for the first 2 times. And so he owes us something. But I understood his point when he called and said, there's no way I can stay over there. There's just too much noise. And I need a break. So let's see how it goes. It will take us to go now and put in place things that people believe will be a little bit more calmer, and then I'm sure some people will come back. Everybody may not, but we'll reach out to everybody.
Okay. With the time at 10 minutes to itself, to 10 o'clock, we will now take to the lines former Vice President Juah Howard Taylor. We've been talking on governance and political issues. NPP at its call 0777-700-995-0555. 995-995 026-0555 026-995. That number is for international caller. Use a WhatsApp outside Liberia. Councillor Rachel Yoffie wanted to be president of Liberia in 2020. Councillor Luther Yoffie wanted to be president of Liberia in 2023. He's our first caller. Councillor, good morning.
Thank you very much. My attention is drawn to the so-called election reform act or whatever. You see what happens in this country? People who are privileged and who have established themselves in government want to remain in power continually, perpetually. And so they try to create bottlenecks for youngsters, for young politicians who are coming up to make it difficult for them to ascend to political leadership. And so they try to legislate what we call narcissism because they are so egotistic. They want to remain in power forever. Election is all about competition. Democracy is about competitive ideas.
I have not gotten your point yet. What's a particular law you reference in the proposed amendment or whatever?
The proposed registration fee.
Okay, all right.
When a former vice president is sitting in studio and talking about registration fee should be $25,000. That is intended to marginalize young people who are trying to come up. People who are working in civil service and making $150 US per month. How can they raise $25,000 US to register because they have good ideas and they want to lead their country?
But she's talking about a higher seat in the land.
So what? So the higher seat in the land should be for sale? There are those who lack the political ideas and vision to lead the country, but because they were privileged to serve in government and they managed to siphon some resources, they can afford, and so they want to marginalize the other people.
Okay, Luther. Thank you, Councillor Yofi. You spoke on your mind. Let's go to Paris in France, I am sure, and take this call. Hello?
Good morning, Clarence. Good morning, my stand-up bearer, the Honorable Dr. Weah. This is Frank Gibson and I call from Paris.
The other mayor and NPP Benin. What are they talking about? Go ahead.
This is the only political party I have joined officially since 1996. I have not joined any other political party. I do support George Weah because of the coalition. So I remain a bona fide National Patriotic Party partisan. Madam President, thank you very much for your appearing this morning. I have not followed OKFM morning show for the last 2 to 3 months. But I was concerned this morning because of the tag. Somebody tagged me in the chat room that you are on the radio. I just want to thank you for your courage. After everything, you still have the courage to come on the radio. Thank you very much, and I hope the NPP will be strong and stronger and come back very strong in 2029.
My man, you stay been following me. Don't get issue on anybody. You can follow the hair. You say I'll not be following. Bye, man. Hello.
Morning, Clarence.
Good morning.
Let me say good morning to the former Vice President of the Republic of Liberia. And I'm Terry Somanimlen. And I call from the slum of the community where the slum doesn't live in us. And let me agree with the former Vice President when you spoke about the issues about the government reluctance in terms of tackling the issue of drugs, especially the 19 million process. And I think moving forward for our clients, the government have not been proactive in handling these issues because it has been over a week now that the government have not given a proper report about how this process can be found in the court of law because the government itself is giving a contradicting statement.
Okay. Contradicting statement. 30 seconds. I want to take few people. We got less 6 minutes to go. Hello?
Good morning, Clarence.
Good morning.
Good morning to Niswa.
Yeah.
Good morning.
My name is Steve Kennedy and I from her hometown, Phoebe Swakoko.
Okay.
My question to you this morning, Bon County is at the critical junction. We are going to 2029. As regard the governance and guardians of our beloved country, who do you support and why is you standing for 20?
Support as what? Support as
Senator.
what? As senator?
A senator in a county.
All right. You really think she will say that thing yet? Okay. Let me take a call. Hello?
Good morning, Clarence.
Good morning.
Eric Murray here.
Eric, let's hear you.
Good morning to one of the mothers of our nations.
Good morning.
The issue about increment into the fees of those who want to contest, I think it's a brilliant idea. But mother, I want you to please let it be considered that for the presidency and vice presidency, those people money can go up. For those of us opting to be represented, we have young people vying for those positions.
Eric, I didn't know you going to Canada.
Give me chances.
Ellen, I thought I hear your secret.
So I mean, for those vying for representative position, I think it should remain that way. And one of the questions you answered this morning that touched my mind was the issue about drugs. Drugs in this country
have passed political lines, drugs have passed travel lines, drugs affect all of every sector of our nation.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Let me take ANC stalwart Josh Wisner as the final caller. Josh, go ahead.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Okay. I just wanted to say thanks to Madam Joelle Howard-Taylor for her service to the state, for all that she's done for this country, for continuing to be an inspiration to young women of Liberia, young girls who aspire to be like her. I want to thank her for her resilience and encourage her to continue to do what she is doing. We look forward to working with her, and I hope she continues.
The memo Cho Kumi's bid again.
The patriotic person she is. No, beyond politics. Joelle and I have a very good friendship, relationship, Clarence, beyond politics. So I'm not saying it out of politics. I'm saying it out of sincerity.
Sincerity mixed with politics. We can understand it, man. Let's go back to Madam Taylor. The 3 minutes we can let her be. Yep. You listen to the cause.
And I think many people just make comments. I want to thank George for calling this morning. Like I always say, I have friends across the board in all of the political parties, so sometimes it can make it a little bit tough. When somebody calls and asks who am I supporting as senator, I think it's still early. I think when we get into 2028, when everybody has decided what they want, we'll now begin to look at it. But I think Bond County, what I'm hoping to see in Bond County is that we'll come together and pick our best and our brightest so that the work that still needs to be done in Bond County can be done. Let me close with this. This will be the controversial thing. All the things I said today that one they will carry. So I ain't got a problem with it.
You keeping it yourself, it's controversial. You say
I'm talking about as it relates to the elections.
Go ahead.
In 2023, though I had advocated for Mama Briggs, and I had asked the political party to leave that space for her because I believe she was going to win. And I said once people win, then it's easier to get people on board, But she being a UNE female in Bond County contesting, and I'm always talking about women who have been a real sore on my whole character in my career. I always talk about things that I don't do, and I don't want to be that kind of politician. So even though I went and I tried to talk and lobby for her, others felt that the person they wanted to run as representative for that district was not her, and so they decided to put up another candidate. So what did I do? I had already given her my word that I was going to support her. So I went ahead and supported her. I was physically there in her campaign. It didn't make my political party happy. I'm hoping that as we go towards the period, that's why I'm hoping NPP can come up with what they want done. We have a blueprint. We have the people we want to support. So if we go anywhere to make any decision, these are the people we'll carry. So it makes it easier to say, okay, we won't carry Clarence Jackson for District 1, for example, so that we negotiate a place long before we get to the point where people now have to backtrack. I think if we are able to do that as a political party, then we'll go with strength. And so if somebody asks me, for example, who's going to be senator, who's going to be what, I don't know yet. There's a lot of discussions that will take place. And the county will also have to sit and decide. There have been times that the county will call me, or the primary chief will say, okay, that the person will support him. So if I didn't want to support him, I just remain silent, but I wouldn't go against my kingsmen or especially when it comes to the home county, you have to be a little bit careful with some of what everybody does that when it comes to their own home county. So I think in a few years we'll see a little bit clearly, and then between consultations at the county level and at the party level, I'll be able to say who I'm supporting. At this point, I don't have anyone on the top of my
Finally, man, in few seconds, what's your relationship with Vice President Kuhn, by the way?
And I said the other day that even though we have worked in the legislature before, Vice President Kuhn, or Dr. Vice President Kuhn, I don't know how we're going to fix it, but he's just gotten an honorary doctorate from Cottington. I want to congratulate him. So Dr. Kuhn and I didn't have a personal relationship before. We're just friends on the peripheral. So it doesn't, I can't say we're not too good now because we have never been like close friends. The fact that I'm female, I had assumed that we would have found a way to
Has he been reaching out to you since he took over?
I think the first time he came to visit me was when my son died. So I thought that was a place of interaction where I hope we can build a little bit on where we are. But we really haven't had it like that before. It's not like Funatiko fire myself, that would make me go to the prison to face him. He was in trouble. So I'm hoping we can build a relationship, and I want to say congratulations to him.
I'd like to say thank you so much for coming. Maybe not now, maybe 2027, 2028 thereabout, we'll have more of these conversations. Former Vice President Weah Howard Taylor, former Senator of Bond County, former First Lady of the country. She was. Is this your first public interaction since you left office?
My second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Pizzo. Tomorrow morning we'll be back here with another edition of the show.